Okay, today what we're going to do, we're going to take a look at one of the other shapes called square things around. It looks just like this. And it's kind of like zebra boxes. The reason why it's named zebra boxes is because there's white and black. Okay, so what this is going to do, we're going to start with drawing a square on the bottom. And again, it doesn't give a size, but I like 2 inches by 2 inches. Remember, the length or the width and the depth need to be the same for it to be a square. And then we're going to pull it up, and I'm going to go 2 inches up. So I'm going to select the rectangle, I'm going to click up and around, and then I'm going to come and type in the same measurements, 2 quotation, comma, 2 quotation, return. Now this is really small, that's what we want it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. Okay, I'm going to pull up on this 2 inches. So now I have a cube. It's 2 inches cubed. Okay? So the next thing, let's go ahead and take a look at our instructions. The next thing it asks us to do is go ahead and make this a component. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I right click on it. Notice I went and dragged a square all the way around it, so it contains all edges are selected. Right click and make it a component. Let me double check that. It's always good to double check. Into a component, yes. Okay, and I'm just going to name it square. And glue to none, and I'm not going to check anything. Replace selection with component should be checked. Create. Alright. So now if I right click, it'll say edit component. I don't want to edit it yet. Let's check out the instructions about what we need to do next. It says make sure to replace selection, and we've already done that. Now we activate the line tool and start with the center midpoint on one side, and then drag out. Make the line about this length, staying in the red direction. Your line might be green depending on how you made your box. Okay? When you finish the line, press escape key since we don't want any more lines. And then we're going to use a rotate tool. So let's go ahead and I'm going to select my line, find the midpoint, dragging over, I don't know, maybe 3 inches or so. Alright, so that line, and then I press the escape key. Okay, so the line is a little bit longer than my object. Okay, it says now with the component, select the square, then with the rectangle tool, you're going to click on this, drag it over here, and press the option key for copying anywhere, then type 360. And so what we're going to do is we're going to copy it into a circle, okay? Although it's not going to look like anything happens. Let me show you. So I'm going to click here. I click to place it. Touch the cube. Remember, the cube's blue, so it's already selected. Click and drag. Oh, I had to press the option key. Type 360 for the angle. You can see over here in the corner, it gives me an angle. Or I can just type 360 and press return. Now it appears like there's only one box, but there's really 2 right there. Okay? It says now type 9 slash. And what that does is going to make 9 copies. So down here, press 9 divide by, press return. There you go. So now I have 9 copies. Only none of them are touching. So you can see it doesn't quite look like this. So it says if it doesn't look like this, either you can increase or decrease the numbers. Maybe you need 10, maybe you need 7. We'll see. So I'm going to type in 10 divide by, and that works as long as you haven't clicked anywhere else. Still not enough. Maybe 12 divide by. A little bit. Maybe I'm going to do one more. 13. Not 100, 13. Divide by. Okay, it's starting to get close to kind of like what that looks like. Okay. Alright, we want to fix each box so it doesn't overlap with its neighbors. That means we want to use one component to trim another component. And since all components are the same, this really means that the components will be used to trim itself. Confused? I bet you are. I am a little bit. Edit one of the boxes. So we're going to double click, right click, and say edit the component. And you'll notice when you do that, it stays green. Now come up to Window, under Model Info, under Components you can say Hide. So this will hide all the other ones except for the one we're working with. So if I click out of it, you'll see it goes back to normal. I can get rid of that now. So I'm going to double click on it to edit this component. And then it says select everything and right click and say intersect model and intersect model with faces. So I select it, right click, intersect faces with model. Again, right click, make sure you select it all the way first. Intersect faces with model. And that gives you these little lines on the side. Now on the top, I'm going to drag a diagonal line across the top. For both of those. Okay. And now I'm going to pull down on the tops of each one of these. And then click out of it. Now you can see they don't overlap anymore, and that's what you want. So here I do the line, I pull down on each side, and that's what we want. Okay, so yours should look like this. Now it's time to paint the boxes. But before we paint the boxes, we're going to use the offset tool to go in a little bit. Oh, I got to double click on one to open the component first. And that was my first one I started with, so that's the one I like. On the top, I'm just going to click and drag in just a little bit, one time, and it creates a line. Now all you have to do is go in a little bit. You can see I selected the face, and I just double click. I don't go too fast because if you go too fast, sometimes it gets off. And maybe you have to zoom in. And then once you get to a certain size, it'll get too small. You can just press Apple Z and undo. Okay, now I'm going to go over to the same side and just continue this.
Oh wait, erase this line. That's what we want.
And as long as you keep double clicking, it should go the same distance you want until you get to the side. Remember that you're not going to see this side and this side, so I'm not going to do that. You will see these.
Did you make the circles? Yeah.
Okay, so you can see that these should be exactly the same all the way around. Oh, I forgot to use the bottom. Okay, you can see on that part it's wrong, so I'm just going to double click. Now when I click out of it, you should see these offsets on all of them. And it should look like this. And if I click on one, and now it's ready to paint. So what I'm going to do, whoops.
What do you do with this part?
I got ahead of myself.
I did the line.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use black and white.
Sit in it.
And what I'm going to do is pick a color,
But you didn't have the wires on the
and we're going to show you what happens. Here's black. Oh, and it all turned black. If I right click and say edit component, choose black, zoom in,
No, that's supposed to happen.
and go every other one. I'm not sure which one they start, but I'm going to go with the inside out. Every other one.
It's breaking the wire. That's all I say.
Every other one black now. And when I unclick, because I was editing a component, it applies that same setting to the other ones. Okay, now if I click on a component and choose a different color and paint it, you'll notice the black stayed the same, and because I wasn't inside a component. And this allows me to individually color different ones, and if I change the opacity, it kind of makes it appear like it's sitting inside a glass, but I have to do that on each color.
I need help with the wire.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're doing here.
And you can choose, and maybe I'm going to make mine like a rainbow color starting with yellow. And I'll start here, go to green, maybe blue, maybe a little bit darker, a little bit darker. And you can see, because the opacity is there,
Oh, I know.
and now I have like a rainbow looking shape. And this is called Square Things Round.
Oh my gosh, where do you sit?
And that's the rest of the assignment. This is what yours should look like.